Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nurfadhilah. I'm from English Education Department 2018, Winaluddin Makassar. In this video, I will explain about the development of speech production. The first one, from vocalization to babbling to speech. First, vocalization to babbling. The most important in vocalization to babbling is all infants are the same. The same goes to the deaf one. The first sound by infant is usually unlearned. At the early 7 months of age, infants started to babbles, which is also known as repeated syllable. Example: Baba, Gigi, Mama, etc. The syllable consists the basic consonant plus vowel type. Sometimes it also consists of closed syllable of the simple consonant plus vowel plus consonant variety. Example: pan. Infants only learn the language and the intonation based on the language or environment that been exposed. According to the Boyson, native speakers could tell the difference between the babble of infants who were learning the language as opposed to the babble of infants learning other language. To deaf infants, they could not say the utterance as the formal infants, but they will do their babbling by their hands. Next is babbling speech. The next level of babbling is speech. It happens at 1 year of age, but not necessarily. It might happen sooner or later. It depends on the infant itself. Not all the babbling appears in their speech. Sometimes it's been forgot. Some research also found this discontinuity. What is it so? According to Jesperson, 1983, there is a distinction between intentional and non-intentional vocalization. As the research showed, babbling is putting out of central cognitive control. It is known as non-intentional because the infant does not intentionally make the particular babbling which occurs. For babbling, the child can say out any sound that he or she wants, and informally he or she can give practice to the use of those articulators that involves. Babbling process differs with meaningful speech. To speak meaningfully, the child must learn to identify the articulation that produce the words, and words cannot be said randomly. The acquisition order of consonants and vowels. Research showed that consonants are acquired in a front-to-back order, and opposed to vowel which is acquired back to front order. Steinberg noted that there are two variables revealed in this process: visibility of articulators and ease of articulation. The articulation clue learners of the child on sounds starts when the child wanted to produce meaningful speech. To achieve the perfect speech, the child has to find the ways to produce the sound. It is by identifying the articulators. Next, early speech stage: naming, holoplastic, telegraphic, and morphemic. First, naming is one-word utterance. Because of some reasons, we cannot decide at what stage do people produce their first words. It may because of the individual differences and some research showed that the children learn their first word when they are able to utter a recognizable speech form, and in conjunction with some object or event in the environment. The speech form may be imperfect, and the associated meaning may be incorrect. This happens because of the physical and brain development. The definition of naming in this context is when children put words to the object. It usually accompanied by action, no matter the action from the child or people around him or her. The next holoplastic function, one word utterance. Children usually use single word to express the complex thought that relates to the object. Research has shown that by using single word, children can express a variety of semantic function and complex ideas. Holoplastic means the child uses the single word to express the thought, while the adult will use the whole sentence. Example: peach, daddy, spoon, to describe a situation where daddy had cut a piece of peach that was in a spoon, rather than say it in a full sentence like the adult does. Next, telegraphic speech 2 and 3 utterance. First, children do not process as rapidly to two-word utterance as one might expect. Variety of purposes and semantic relation. There are variety of purposes to complexity of semantics relation. Child use language to request warm, name, and etc. To end, utterance involves such semantic relation and concept as agent, action, experience, and etc. And second, low incidence of function words. Second feature of the child utterance is the low incidence of function words. Example: article, preposition, be verb, and child's utterance which consisted of the is, on, the. Act children never create such utterance. Obviously would have less communicative impact than milk chair. Because children's utterance at this stage appear to have the character of a telegram message. They are short and mainly composed of content words. This is also known as telegraphic stage. The third is close approximation of the language word order. Final feature is the close correspondence of the child word order to that of proper sentence. The child learning English tends to say my cup rather than cup my, not tired rather than tired not, and daddy come rather than come daddy. Even with two-word utterance, child show some learning of the word order of the language. It showed that the child has acquired a significant aspect of the grammar of English, which will later enable the child to comprehend and produce appropriate utterance. The next, syntactic and versus semantic analysis. In 1960, research of child language acquisition was seriously begun. The focus was on syntax. It is because the source of the idea for the analysis is Chomsky. Syntactic-based theory, grammar, which did not detail the semantic component in his grammar. However, characterizing adherence wholly in terms of syntactic form fails to uncover important information, which is the variety of semantic relation and purposes for which adherents are used. Simple analyzing the word classes produce data of little importance. Example, mommy chair and truck table are both noun plus noun. The first may involve the concept of possession, mommy's chair, while the second may involve that of location, truck on table. Such concept would be missed in a simple word class analysis. Why? Because this is because in using 2 and 3 words, adherents tends to use only a few grammatical classes: noun, verbs, adjective. Consequently, only little is revealed by word class analysis and the so-called pivot open grammar. Late 1960s, awareness of semantic aspect of language was raised. Next, morpheme acquisition. Once 2 and 3 word adherents have been acquired, children have something on to elaborate. They start to add function words and inflection to their adherents. Function words, preposition, article, auxiliary, inflection, plural, and tense marking. And then the Brown morpheme acquisition research. Roger Brown, 1973, has done a research on morpheme acquisition. The research was done on 3 children. Brown has focused on the acquisition of different function words and inflection in English. Those children acquired the morphemes in a relatively similar order. Generally, the speeds of the acquisition for all research are the same. A similar acquisition order of these English morphemes has also been found for children with language disorders. There are 14 different morphemes act since the on and in are really 2 separate morphemes. Brown treated it as one because they are similar in function and acquired at about the same time. He found that the present progressive preposition and the plural were learned well in both its uncontractable and contractable forms. What is it? Or is Mary happy? The copula B is considered uncontractable because the contracted form of the question what is or is Mary happy is generally ungrammatical or not widely used. The function of be is that of the main verb of the sentence, a copula which joins other basic parts of a sentence. This is different from the function of the auxiliary be in John is eating ice cream, where it is the main verb and where be is used to serve that verb as a mark marker of time such as present or past. As for a contractible form, Mary's hungry is grammatical as its corresponding non-contracted form. Mary is hungry. Why this order of acquisition? Brown checked frequency of occurrences of the morphemes in adult speech to see if more highly used morphemes were learned faster by the child. Found no or shapes. Then considered that the order reflected an increasing order of semantic or grammatical complexity. Example, plural is learned early because requires the idea of number, whereas the copula B is more complex because the child needs to apply both number and tends to select which form of the copula to use. Delay, birth, and question suggest that there is a sort of predetermined order in the child mind that governed by as yet unknown mechanism. The morphemes appear in order of they do because of such mechanism, but some other people do not agree. They believe a less metaphysical explanation is available. The next, our explanation of order of acquisition. The order of morpheme acquisition can be explained directly and simply by applying psychological learning principles that are universal and accepted. According to Steinberg, there are three variables: easy of observability, of referent, meaningfulness or referent, and distinctiveness of the sound signal which indicates the referent. This variable also affects second language learning as well. Variable 1, easy of observability of referent. Objects, situation, or event not easily observed by the child is essential for learning. The more easily a child can see or hear or otherwise experience the referent, example, seeing a dog. If someone were to say the dog is barking as opposed to the dog barked or the dog will bark, the referent in the first sentence will be more important, observable, because it involves a present ongoing action, and this difference will affect learning. Variable 2, meaningfulness of referent. Different objects, situation, or events which are of interest to the child on about the child desires to communicate will be learned faster than those which lack such interest. Naturally, the child will remember the more highly meaningful reference. Child utterance reflect the concept which the child wishes to communicate, example, car table, car going, etc. Compared to such grammatical function items as the article, etc., it is clear that function items have little inherent meaning for the child who is just beginning to learn the language. Next, variable 3, distinctness of sound in signaling the referent. The child able to identify the speech sound that signal that morpheme. The greater the sound distinction involved, the easier it will be for a morpheme signal to be learned. Former case with is more distinctive from a hearing point of view because it is a separate word with a vowel, and as a separate word it receives some degree of stress in a phase of sentence. In contrast, S is a consonant which is manifested as a suffix and does not receive stress. The difference between Mary playing and Mary's playing is comparatively slight again because the S is without a vowel and does not receive any stress in normal rapid speech, such as sound difference between the two sentences. Next, ladder speech stage. Role information for negatives and other complex structures. Features of negation. There are 5 different things in producing the negative formation. Where to insert the negative marker. 2. When and where to insert auxiliary do. 3. When auxiliary do is used, the tense from the verb is shifted to the auxiliary do. 4. Lexical concordance must be made in the case of the negative. 5. Optionally, aux plus negative did or plus not can be contracted to didn't. The next, the development of speech comprehension, fetus, and speech input. Mother speech sounds were found to be able to reach the ear of the fetus above the background sounds. Infants tend to do something that oriented to his or her mother more in order to activate the tape with their mother's voice than to hear the voice of another woman. Research showed that infants could distinguish the sound of their mother's voice and other women. The learning of the mother's voice and may actually have accurate. If a fetus could hear sound from the outside world, the sound will have to be through a medium of a liquid in the fetus sac, so that speech sounds are virtually distinguishable. Newborns or neonates and speech input. Infants may even prefer their native language at birth. The neonates choose to listen to French, the language their mother spoke while pregnant. And children born to mother who did not speak French did not demonstrate the ability to discriminate between the two languages. Newborn could have done their learning after birth, since testing was done when the infants were already 4 days old. Whether language perception begins in the womb is still unanswered. Conclusion: newborns are so responsive to sound within such a short time or birth they are ready for speech sound. Next, speech comprehension occurs without speech production. Mute but hearing can develop the ability to comprehend speech without their being able to produce speech. Mute persons developed a grammar. A mental grammar is based on speech comprehension that enables them to understand the speech to which they were exposed. Next, in normal children, speech comprehension develops in advance of speech production. If children did not first learn to understand the meaning of words and sentences, they would not be able to use words or sentences in a meaningful way. Comprehension of a language production does not mean a child must understand all of the language before being able to produce something. The system of comprehension and production do not develop separately for this normal child. Child will then try to figure how to use it in production. The child attempts to coordinate production to confirm to the system that has been developed for comprehension. Pre-speech normal infants, baby can recognize words as early as 6 months of age. The comprehension and projection processes develop in a parallel mode with projection, always trying to keep up with comprehension. The next, speech production lags behind speech comprehension. First, the Hatton-Locher study, he found that children 10 until 13 years old were able to comprehend speech at a level beyond that to which they had progressed in projection. Children were able to select familiar objects such as bottle and diaper, which were named for them and were able to respond appropriately. Second, the Such and Trustwell study, they found that children could only produce single word utterance. Nevertheless, could comprehend syntactic structures composed of more than one word. Conclusion: the children's level of speech comprehension was well in advance of their level of speech projection. And then next, relative paucity of comprehension study. Projection study are easier to do. Speech projection can directly observe, while the product of comprehension cannot. Comprehension can only be inferred on the basis of relevant behavior. Okay, that's all from me. Lebih dan kurangnya mohon dimaafkan. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.